Hello, this is NinjaristicNinja and welcome to the 100k Q&A, or more likely 150k Q&A because of how long it's taken me to make this video. I apologise. Before we finally get into the questions, however, I want to say a massive thank you for the ridiculous amount of support I've gotten this year. The subscriber goal at the start of the year was 100k, and I felt like even that might be a little bit too ambitious, but you've just smashed past every single milestone I thought possible, and it's truly been an overwhelming experience to be able to upload these MMV passion projects and get so much feedback and so much love. I think I might have said this before, but this channel and NinjaristicNinja in general really has become such a powerful source of happiness in my life. So if you subscribed 2 years ago, 1 year ago, last week, or even today, thank you. Sappy stuff aside, you asked a lot of questions, so let's just get into it. Question 1. Any advice for people who want to get into learning manga/comic MMVs/MADs as well? If you're a complete beginner, I'd recommend first finding a piece of software that you can use to make the videos. Obviously I use Adobe After Effects, and I think it's probably one of, if not the best pieces of software that you can use, but there are alternatives if you look for them. Even if it's just a standard piece of editing software, just something that allows you to animate and keyframe images. Then, from there, I'd search up something along the lines of MMV tutorial, or manga animation tutorial, and some helpful stuff should appear. Question 2. Have you considered expanding to AMVs? I have considered it. When I initially made my MMV/AMV playlist, I did actually intend to make some AMVs. But ultimately, the better I got at making manga animations and the more the channel grew because of it, the less interested I got in making AMV. Especially at this point, I just feel like I don't have anything particularly interesting to offer to AMVs, whereas for MMVs, I've still got an endless number of ideas. Question 3. Do you do YouTube for a living, or is it just a hobby? I guess it's a very serious hobby. I'd love to be able to do YouTube as a living. I've always had an interest in content creation, but MMVs just aren't really monetizable whatsoever. Question 4. Do you enjoy making videos, and why? Of course I do. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't be doing it still. And the reason I enjoy it is because 1, it's fun, and 2, I just think it's been a really great way to express myself creatively. I've also always just really loved anime openings, and MMVs are like kind of the closest thing I can get to making one. Question 5. Did you study animation? No, but I do really love animation, and I've watched a lot of stuff to just kind of gain inspiration from. Question 6. What's your favourite anime/manga? It's hard to pick just one, and the list for both tends to change quite often, but at the moment, for manga, it's Chainsaw Man, Free Run Beyond Journey's End, Kaguya Lovers War, MHA, and Attack on Titan. And for anime, it's probably something like Mob Psycho 100, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Attack on Titan Season 3 Part 2, MHA Season 2, and Free Run Beyond Journey's End. The last one might be a little bit recency biasy, but I don't care. I love the manga. The anime's top tier. It's great, watch it. Question 7. Will you do any collabs with other MMV creators? I'd like to. Admittedly, group projects were never really my forte in school, so I'm always kinda hesitant to collaborate, but it's definitely something I'd like to do at some point. Question 8. Are you planning to animate GOJO vs SUKUNA? Obviously, yes. I've gotten this question a lot, not just on the Q&A post, but also on everything I've ever made, which of course makes sense. You know, the Culling Game MMV has done stupidly well, and the fights in the manga recently ended, and people want to see it animated. So of course, I'm going to animate it. There's way too much to work with, it makes too much sense, I'm not stupid. That said, after having worked on the Culling Game MMV for about half a year, I'm not exactly in a rush to animate another JJK thing just yet. And I have, while I was working on the Culling Game MMV, I had some other MMVs on the back burner that I can finally make now. So after I finish those, we're animating GOJO vs SUKUNA. probably early 2024. Question 9. What's your favourite anime/manga character and why? If I had to pick just one character, it'd probably be Reigen Arataka from Mob Psycho 100. I think he's a funny, charismatic, well-voiced acted character in both the sub and the dub, but he's also really layered and has more to offer aside from jokes, which I really appreciate. I also really love Shirogane from Kaguya Lover's War for very similar reasons. Question 10. Favourite JJK character? Yuta. Question 11. I've always wondered, are there any copyright issues or anything like that? I think it depends what you define as an issue. I haven't really had to deal with any videos being blocked or struck down, which is great. But pretty much every MMV I upload gets copyright claimed, which means I can't actually monetize them. So even though the Culling Game MMV, for example, has like 4.5 million views, the revenue from it is 0, which is a bit of an issue, I guess, if I was trying to do this full-time, which I'm not really. And it's for that reason that I set up the Patreon, so shameless plug, but support me there if you want to help me out. I'm desperate, I'm not desperate, it's fine, but if, yeah, check it out. Question 12. What are your favourite manga panels of all time? This is a really cool question, but also really difficult to answer because there are so many. I think the first that comes to mind is the astronaut one from Chainsaw Man chapter 64. Even though I kind of ruined it a little bit by making them dance. Question 13. What's your favourite meal? Japanese curry. It's great. Question 14. What is your favourite battle in manga? Okay, so GOJO vs Sukuna obviously comes to mind, with how recent it was, and although I didn't love every aspect of it, personally, it's definitely up there as one of the best, in my opinion. I think the length of it, the art, the choreography were all top-notch. That said, to give a more interesting answer, I think my favourite at the moment, or at least one that sticks out to me, is Sakamoto vs Kashima in Sakamoto Days. The fights in Sakamoto Days are generally top tier, but I love the choreography and bits of humour in this particular one. Like the parts where they're in the little connecting door thingy, and Sakamoto just casually adjusts his glasses before beating the ever-loving crap out of him in the background, is amazing. It's only a couple of chapters too, so it's short and sweet, but I love it. Question 15. Where do you get your backgrounds for your MMVs? Assuming you're talking about the 3D ones, I use an After Effects plugin called Element 3D, which allows me to animate 3D models within After Effects itself. Question 16. Any interest in doing a Dandadan MMV? 100%. I've been following it since the early chapters, and the art has always blown me away, especially with how consistent it is on a weekly basis. That said, it's not super high priority for me at the moment. Question 17. Do you storyboard / plan beforehand so you know what you want your action to look like? If so, could you show us some storyboards / behind the scenes stuff? Or do you just wing it? Between proper storyboarding and winging it, I guess it's a bit of both. I've never drawn out a physical storyboard or anything like that, but I do tend to mentally storyboard scenes while listening to whatever song I'm using on repeat. Again and again and again until my Spotify Wrapped is ruined. Question 18. Do you plan on doing similar content in the future, or do you maybe have other ideas / ambitions for your channel? To be honest, the ambitions for this channel are just to continue making better and better MMVs, but since I can't monetize them, there isn't really an end goal per se. I'd love to be able to branch out and do more varied content. As I said, I've always wanted to do content creation, but I think it's a lot easier said than done, given that my entire audience is built around MMVs. I think streaming might be a viable option at some point, once I'm in the right environment for it, but for now I'm not sure. Question 19. Do you like bread with butter or bread with mayo? Bread with butter. Question 20. What's your favourite MMV you've done so far? It's really hard to pick just one, but if I had to, it'd probably be the Pokémon Festival of Champions MMV, with maybe the Culling Game MMV being a close second. Question 21. How long do your MMVs typically take to make? Does it directly correlate to how long they are? It definitely varies. Some MMVs, like my recent Freerun one, only took a month, whereas the Culling Game MMV took about 5 months or so. Generally, it does correlate to how long they are, but there are other factors too. For example, if an MMV has super fast pacing, it means I've got to crop out, redraw, and animate a lot more panels, which takes longer. Question 22. If you could remake an MMV, which one? I'd probably remake my very first one, which is my MVA X Whistlesnake MMV, just since it'd be cool to see how far I've come. Question 23. How are you? A little bit tired. My throat's a little bit sore doing all this recording, but other than that, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Question 24. What's your favourite music artist? At the moment, it's probably Yoasobi or Eve, but admittedly my music taste is kinda all over the place, and most of the time I'm listening to music, it's because I'm searching for MMV songs, or I'm planning one in my head. When I'm listening to music to relax, it's usually video game soundtracks, like Pokémon, Zelda, and so on. Yeah, okay, that's great, buddy. Hi, this is Editing Ninja. I found a band called Cassiopeia. They're a Japanese jazz fusion band. That's my answer. They're great. Question 25. What is your favourite opening song of all time? My favourite opening is probably... It's two. It's Mob Psycho Season 1 opening, and Kaguya-Lover's War Season 1 opening. Because I just think both have like the perfect song plus visual combo. Question 26. I've noticed most of your work mainly focuses on stuff that's in Shonen Jump. Is that due to your personal preference with the artwork and stories featured, or is it more to do with the convenience of obtaining scans? I think it's a mix of both. Obviously, the more obscure a manga is, the harder it is to get decent scans. But first and foremost, I always animate stuff I like. There's also the factor of the popularity of the series, which I think is quite guaranteed with Shonen Jump. Question 27. Do you intend to release some project files for purchase? Probably not, no, because my project files are an absolute mess. Question 28. If you could get one ability from any power system, what would it be? I've always thought Roy Mustang's Flame Alchemy was really cool, so probably that. Though I'm not really sure what I'd use it for. Question 29. What do you think is the longest part of your video making process? I think cutting out and prepping the panels probably takes the most time. It's not the most complicated part, but since I like making faster paced videos, I end up having to get through quite a lot. The culling game MMV, for example, had something like 260 panels I had to cut out and prepare for animation. Question 30. Have you ever thought of doing MMVs for manhwa, or will you just stick to manga? It's something I've thought about for sure, but transitioning from animating black and white illustrations to coloured illustrations is easier said than done. That said, I'd like to branch out once I'm more confident. Question 31. Did you have any sort of background on animation/drawing before you started making your videos? What skills were the most useful at the very beginning? No, I had no background when it comes to animating and drawing specifically. Pretty much everything I've learned has been through experimenting with MMVs, though as I mentioned before, I've always had a bit of a passion for animation anyway. I did, however, have a really amateur background in editing, which taught me how to edit to the beat of a song, which has obviously been really useful for the kind of MMVs I make. Question 32. What is your brainstorming process? Because goddamn, these MMVs are good. I'm glad you like them. The brainstorming process is usually just me listening to the song I want to use on repeat while staring at a wall and imagining how the MMV is going to play out in my head. I don't tend to brainstorm the entire MMV before I start working on it, but I do try to set kind of checkpoints of what panels I want to see appear at specific parts of the song. Like for my MHA War Arc MMV, before I'd even started animating anything, I knew I wanted the second verse to be Shigaraki waking up, and I knew I wanted the final chorus to be Deku vs Shigaraki in the sky. And then I just kind of built the rest of the video and the pacing around that. Question 33. Best advice to overcome burnout? I think the best way to overcome burnout, at least in my experience, is to just work on more stuff. Like when I was completely burned out while working on the culling game MMV, which happened multiple times, I took a break by making the Chainsaw Man Part 2 MMV. If you get burned out often, I'd also maybe just recommend working on shorter videos so you're not stuck working on the same projects for too long. Question 34. What are your top 10 favourite Pokemon? Well, my top 10 would probably be something like Piplup, Giratina, Snorlax, Umbreon, Lucario, Dedenne, Zorua, Goomy, Electivire, and of course, Greninja. Question 35. What motivates you to keep working? You. And everyone who's watching this video and any video I make. That and of course, I also just want to keep improving. Question 36. What got you into doing MMVs in the first place? There were two specific videos that initially inspired me to try making an MMV of my own. First was the official Chainsaw Man Volume 9 promotional video, and the second was Alinko's JJK Shibuya arc MAD. And obviously since then I've continued to watch more and more videos and discover more and more creators who have also inspired me to keep improving, like Natsuki, Yuki and Nebs, just to name a few. Question 37. How do you pick the songs that go with your MMVs? Generally, I'm just always listening to music and looking for new songs to potentially use. That said, if it's something you struggle with, I think a good way to find songs is to watch other MMVs and see what they use. And also, if the manga you're animating has an anime adaptation, look into the artists or bands that made the opening or ending songs. Because if one of their songs works for a series, they might have others that'll fit too. Question 38. Do you ever plan to make videos for less known manga? Yes. I've already started with stuff like my Freerun MMV and I've got more on the way. Of course, I'm going to keep making JJK, Chainsaw Man and MHA MMVs as well. But since I've got an established audience, I also want to use my platform to introduce people to more manga and show love to series that don't quite get as much as the big Shonen Jump ones. Question 39. Are you planning on making another Chainsaw Man video? Yes. Question 40. Are you planning to do Berserk stuff? Yes. Question 41. Ever thought of doing anything Tokyo Ghoul related? Yes. Question 42. Is cutting those manga panels for the PNGs a pain in the ass? Yes. Question 43. Are you a little Cutie Patootie? Yes. Question 44. Will you give me your firstborn? No. And there we have it. 44 questions later. Here we are. My throat hurts. If you somehow got this far, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope some of those answers were insightful, and thanks again for the support. Excited to see where we can go from here. Take care of yourselves, and peace.